You're live. A very good morning to everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this boot camp on acing the PM internship. I am Vikram Goyal, and we have Aditya with us.
Hi
I had
guys.
a lot of fun preparing for this boot camp, and I hope you'll have a lot of actionable insights and takeaways from this session. So before we begin, let me introduce myself and my co-presenter for the day. I am Vikram Goyal, and I currently work as a product manager at Airmeet, the platform which we are using right now. I am a graduate of IIT Guwahati, 2013 batch. After that, I worked in DirectEye for 3 years as a software engineer. Then I went on to do my MBA from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. And after that, I started my career in product management. And right now, I'm building this awesome virtual events platform called Airmeet. Over to you, Aditya.
Hey, hi guys, nice to meet you all. So I'm Aditya. I'm a final year college student from BITS Pilani. I will be graduating next month. I worked in local Y Combinator startup as a product analyst, and then did my first product internship in Cardup, Singapore. And currently, I've just finished my converting my internship at Cred and joining full time as a product manager in charge of business, in charge of the business enablement services. Apart from that, I'm super into psychology, gamification, and love discussing a lot about product teardowns.
Thank you, Aditya, for that wonderful introduction. So before we begin, let me start, as a good product manager, let me start with summarizing the goals of this boot camp. So by the end of this boot camp, we hope that you'll have a clear roadmap on what you need to do to break into product management. And the second goal is, so first part can be done just by giving you a lot of GAN as well. But the aim of this boot camp is to go beyond that, go beyond the GAN, and to give you some actionable advice. So the second goal of this boot camp is to empower you with tools, processes, and methods that will magnify your chances of getting an internship. So those are the two goals which we are starting this boot camp with, and I hope you guys have a lot of fun. We'll do a lot of Q&A, and we'll do a lot of interaction, because that is the best way to learn from our experiences as well as the experiences of everyone who's attending this boot camp. So without further ado, let me start with sharing my screen. Yes, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Got it. Looks good?
Yep.
Okay. So few basics before we get into the first session. First is like any sort of boot camp, you will have a lot of assumptions. We have a lot of assumptions while we are presenting. So this is based on our experiences. So I would request that listen to everything with an open mind and put your assumptions on hold. And towards the end of the session, we will open it for Q&A, and we can debate on the things which we don't agree with. Second is, so keep the chat box alive with your comments. It helps us know that yes, there is activity happening. People are listening to the content. Next is, so when I ask questions, I would request you to come on stage and try answering those questions. So confidence and the ability to stand before an audience and present is an essential component of being a successful product manager. And last is, ask a lot of questions. So I don't claim to have all the answers, but I'll definitely try my best to answer those questions during the session. And maybe if I'm not able to answer it as per your expectations, I can always try and answering it later on once the session ends. So that's the general GAN. Without further ado, let us straight away move into the content of the first session. So this first session is about profile building. So before I start, I would like to ask you, as like college students or working professionals or as MBAs, what exactly do you think profile building means? You could give like one-liners or one-word answers in the chat box, and we can wait for your responses. So you have to tell us what exactly do you mean by product building, or what is the first thought, profile building. What is the first thought that comes to your mind? Okay, so we have Rohan, who tells us that profile building refers to proof of work, right? Saket tells us that it's an objective way to show yourself professionally. Kriti tells us it's about gaining the skills. Arundhati mentions it's about experiences. Srinivas says it's a new way of showing, of resuming showing skill set digitally. I think all of this are fantastic answers. So let me start with my understanding of what exactly profile building means. So profile evaluation will happen in every case. So whether you're going for a job, higher education, funding for your startup, or even marriage. So your profile matters a lot. And depending on what you're trying to do, your profile will be different. For example, during our times when we used to plan for an MBA, so it was considered very important to do something outside of work. So, for example, a lot of people used to take part in some social initiatives to add that extra credibility to their profile. Similarly, suppose you are planning to get married, then in the arranged marriage market, what kind of job you have, whether it's stable or not, what is your package, those kind of things become very important. So that is part of your profile there. For example, government job grooms are very much in demand. So no matter what you are doing, profile evaluation and profile building is very important if you want to succeed there. So what my definition of profile building is that profile building refers to working on your skills, achievements, and expertise in order to enhance your prospects in that particular domain. So depending on the domain you are targeting, the way you will build your profile will be different. And lastly, what is the purpose of a profile? So the purpose of the profile is to convince the recruiter, give him that why you need to be, why you are more deserving of that role in comparison to anyone else. So that is my 2 cents on what profile building means. Now that we are clear on the definition of what the profile of what a profile means, let me start with what personally I feel the profile of a good candidate should communicate to me. I believe these are the crucial skills that I'm looking for when I look at any product management candidate's profile. First, I look for, are they creative? Because generating and brainstorming and coming up with ideas is an essential part of any manager's job. Second is, can they communicate well? Because every day you're communicating with different kinds of people. You're communicating with marketers, you're communicating with engineers, you're communicating with the customer support team, you're communicating with designers. So you need to be able to communicate well. Third is, are you good in problem solving? So that is the heart of product management. Every day you will notice new kind of problems and you have to be good at problem solving. And last is, can you hustle? So product manager is someone who nobody needs. As such, product manager does not explicitly do anything. For example, designer is responsible for identifying how it will look. Engineer will do the code. But all of them can very well survive with the without a product manager as well. So product manager is kind of a glue who's connecting all of them. So if I am looking for a good, if I am evaluating a profile, I would want that these aspects should come out of that CV: their creativity, their communication skills, their problem solving skills, and their ability to hustle. So I'll just give you some example. So for example, if I want to check someone's communication skills, written skills are very important. So suppose they are writing on Medium or they are blogging, then this definitely means that when they are on the job, they'll be able to write and communicate well. Second is, suppose you have held a leadership position in your college. That clearly shows to me that you would be a good communicator, because otherwise you can't win the trust of others, and you can hustle as well, because any leadership position requires you to hustle a lot. And then say if you take part in a lot of case competitions, that would tell me that you're good with problem solving, you can collaborate with your peers, you can do market research, synthesize a lot of information, and then come up with good ideas. So I have not used any fancy product management terms like product sense or design thinking, because I want to simplify it and ensure it's very easily understandable for you as well. So that is what I look for in the profile of a good PM candidate. Next, we'll observe how exactly do you build those elements into your profile. Right. So if I am looking at any CV, following are the elements that I'll notice in a profile. So first is the work experience. So if you are an undergraduate, then this probably doesn't matter for you. But for MBA students and working professionals, the first thing that is noticed is the kind of work they have done. Second element of that profile is, no, you might say that this is not good, or this is say no against equality, but the truth is that your college brand also forms a very important part of your profile. Third is, so this one is relevant for the undergraduates as well, internships. So internships done in second year, third year, or during your MBA first year. Next is the college projects or side projects. These could be academic or non-academic. Next is case competitions. So case competitions is another aspect that we are going to touch upon. Then is extracurricular achievements, things you do outside of work. It could be writing, reading, quizzing, or playing sports, participating in dramatics. And last is the courses and certifications. So I feel usually the evaluation happens in this order, but obviously if there is an outlier, if you have done some really fantastic projects, or if you have won some really great case competitions, obviously they'll become much more important components of your profile. But generally, I feel these are the important components of any profile, and this is the order in which they are usually evaluated. For the purpose of this presentation, we will be focusing on the three items which we have highlighted: college projects, case competitions, and courses and certifications. So we'll start with projects, but before we proceed, do we have any questions? Got it. So I'll move ahead. So the first element is projects. What are projects? Project is anything that you build as part of your academic course. It could be an external course which you're taking up on your own. It's not related to your normal curriculum. Or it could be out of curiosity. Say you're really passionate about something and you build out a project on it. Second is, why does it matter? So I believe that projects are the best way to showcase to the recruiter that you actually have experience building something from scratch. And as someone who wants to be a builder or someone who builds products, the fact that you have taken the effort to build something from scratch and take it from 0 to 1 is the greatest indicator from me that yes, you actually are really interested in product management and you have a chance of thriving in that. Next logical question would be, what exactly can you build in a side project? So there can be multiple things here. You could build a portfolio website. So this is very popular with the designers. They build a portfolio to showcase their work and tell people more about themselves. You could blog around a specific topic. So maybe you're passionate about sports, or you are passionate about gaming. So you could build a blog around that on it and try growing traffic on it. So this will really show that yes, you can build something and then take the efforts to market and grow it as well. The next most important part is, how exactly do you build this stuff? Because first three parts are okay, fine and good, they are gyan, but how exactly do you get down to building something? So first thing is, if you want to build something, at least this is what we used to do when we were in college. So you collaborate with someone from who's technical, who knows coding.
Vikram, you're not sharing your screen now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Right. So I just covered what are projects, why do they matter, and what do you build. The most important part is, what are the different ways in which you can build this. At least this is what was there during our times. You collaborate with someone who's technical and try to build a website or an app that solves an actual problem. So this will give you the experience of collaborating as well. The next thing is, you can use no-code tools, and this is the part of the presentation where Aditya will take you through how exactly can you use no-code tools to
Cool.
build something.
Yep.
Right. So I'll just stop sharing my screen for a moment.
Cool. So before I talk about no-code tools, first of all, I wanted to just give a brief thing on why no-code, right? So most people I know, the common excuse for not building a side project or anything is that I have the skills, I have the design knowledge, or I have the product knowledge, but I don't have the tech skills to build a product, and it is a bit hard to catch hold of a tech person to build a product, right? And I think no-code in the last 1 year or 2 years, it's become a great trend to display your skills, and the effort required for to learn any no code tool is very less. It takes about maybe 1 week, 2 weeks max, and you have an actual display of your skills as a product manager. Just like how Vikram said, right? The most important thing in product is making sure that how much ever you can display your knowledge and not just rely on a sheet of paper like a resume. More you can display your knowledge and use it as a marketing tool to show that okay, you have the knowledge of user research, you have the knowledge of design, you have the knowledge of metrics, more the better for you to get selected till the interview round. So I can show you some cool basic no code tools. So yeah. So one of the no-code tools, some of the no-code tools which you can explore is one is Webflow. So Webflow is a no-code tool which is used for building landing pages. And another simple no-code tool is called Adelo. So I can take you some example projects which are done without any code at all. For example, this is a course management system built for collaboration in Washington University, completely done out of no code. And even this, right, completing tasks. So what happens is this kind of apps are built in less than 3 to 4 days after mastery of the tool, and it requires no cost as well. Another good example of no code tools to build SaaS based products or apps is Bubble. So you guys can go click check out this Bubble link and check out the showcase to see ideas of different projects built by a lot of people, either aspiring entrepreneurs or aspiring PMs on Bubble, where they built it with simple no code as well.
Aditya?
The other thing which is this is
Aditya?
Yeah? Yes.
The audience
Vikram?
wants us to go a little slow. Maybe you can just cover slowly each of the projects that you are talking about.
Sure. Cool.
Just start with
So first I'll take
the
you-
tools you mentioned, and then one by one we can discuss the projects in a little more detail.
Cool. No problem. Yeah, sure. So the first tool is Adelo. So what does Adelo uses? Adelo is used to build mobile apps. Now, so it's not for websites, but very simple mobile apps and test your minimal viable product. So in startups, right, when you're or in product management, it's very important to have a hypothesis and build a small experiment to test out your hypothesis. And no code tools are the best ways to do that, number one. And number two is also display that you've taken a small problem and tried to solve it. For example, some of the no code tools here is one is DevMarket. So this is a project where it just allows people to, like, first of all, find different projects as developers and find out, like, track their projects, how much cost it is, view the documentation and everything. It is basically like a project management system. This was built in no code. It's in no code tools. It takes about, so Adelo itself has a learning option where they have tutorials. In these tutorials, they teach you from scratch how to build a product, how to work with data and everything. It takes about maximum 1 week to learn everything. And in less than 10 days, you can build yourself a first project on Adelo itself. So this really helps you in showcasing your skill, number one, as well as it will also be a great tool to test out ideas. Suppose you really want to be a startup founder or build a startup, instead of going and syncing with developers first, try out these tools, build a very small mock-up, and then show it to the tech guy or show it to the developer. I can even show you an example of a gratitude tracker which is built on Adelo itself. So you can see that it is very simple, very minimalistic, but you can it's a good way to display your skills. So you don't have to pick up a big problem. So most people, some kind of no code tool ideas are, one is project management system or a to-do list. The other kind of ideas are gratitude trackers, mindfulness trackers, all of that. And finally, you can even build basic marketplaces, like where to find the best either where to find the best laundry shops in India or in Bangalore, where to find the best like maybe the best barbers in Bangalore. Basic questions solve a very small problem. The other no-code tool I can talk about is Bubble. So Bubble is more for web-based apps. So in fact, a lot of million-dollar companies have been built on Bubble itself. Even I can show you an example of there's this
Previous slide.
Yeah, this is a very famous person called Karthik Chidran who built a company which makes 2 million revenue just out of a no-code tool stack. He did not spend much money. It was just $80 a month. And the company is called Flexible. You guys can check out the company later. It connects the top freelancers in India to the top businesses and top startups which have requirements for this. So it is a good thing to explore because it's a modern way. First of all, not many people understand know much about no-code tools and are not using it yet. So being an early adopter of no-code tools will help you at least stand out. Number one, as it will become an essential skill for PMs in the future as well because it will help you test out your ideas. The number two is that it will be a great way to showcase your skills, showing the working knowledge of a product. Yeah. So
Aditya, we have a question here.
yes,
I'm just flashing it on the stage for everyone to see. The question is this: with no-code tools, can we build a fully functional product, or is it like a prototype?
you can build a fully functional product, but the disadvantage of no-code tool is in terms of customization and scalability. So what I mean by that is you can build a product, you can get like maybe 1,000 to 2,000 people to use the product, but post that, if you want to change the designs too much or you want to modify too much on your own, right? You won't be able to do that without dev effort. So you can build a functional product. Yes, you can also build a prototype, but I won't suggest you to build if you're trying to become a startup founder. No, I won't suggest you to go to no code tool. It will be a good way to test out your idea. Like it's basically an experiment you can test out your idea with.
Got it.
And some basic examples are you can build a basic marketplace. Even like if you learn Bubble well, you can build something like an Airbnb as well. One thing is again, it will affect in terms of scalability, like in the speed of which the website will work, the amount of customization and design changes you can make will be affected.
Got it. So Aditya, before we proceed forward, let us do a quick poll check. So I want to ask the audience that do you have a publicly accessible side project which you can showcase? For example, if we bring you on stage and ask you to share a link, can you guys do that? And I think it will be a good exercise for others also to learn from someone who has actually built a publicly accessible side project, that what was their thought process and how did they do it. So we have around 30-40 votes. Yeah. So the overwhelming majority is towards no. Are the results visible?
No.
Okay. So I'll just mention what the results are. Yeah, almost 90% of the people don't have a project yet, and 10% of the people do have a publicly accessible side project. So if there's anyone in the audience who would want to come on stage and maybe quickly walk us through their side project in 5 minutes, we would love that. I think that will give a good idea to others as well, what are the kind of projects you can build and how easy or how challenging it is. So if anyone wants to volunteer, you can raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon that's there on the bottom. Okay, so we don't have any volunteers yet. I guess the people are shy. No problem. I'll just close the poll for now and we can move forward.
Cool. Vikram, can I just share one more no-code tool which is super useful?
Yeah.
I thought this is also a very easy thing which you can build in less than a day as well. So this is an example of my friend who built this. Education is free. So this is basically a curating tool. And I wanted to call out this because you will get a lot of courses on no-code tool for free here. So this is made with a website called Softer. So if you click, I'll send you the link on the chat. So if you see, right, this is basically a directory of different Notion documents. So for example, if you want to see no-code or no-code cheat sheet, you can click on this. It will take you to a Notion document with a lot of no-code tools and the best ones to learn and a lot of courses as well. So this is a great tool and this was made by my friend. So you can learn it here, right? Even cold mailing, copywriting, anything. So me and my friend curate our tools here and curate Notion documents here. And we try to, and we link it to this course. So you can learn a lot of stuff here, as well as the entire website here is built on no-code tools. It's called Softer. So yeah, this is an example of a side project which can be built with just no code tools, and it's just basically a website which connects with different Notion documents. Very simple to make. It takes less than a day. Even the designs and everything, it's you get it pre-made itself. So you need to just be good at understanding where to place which design and understanding the copy. I will send the link on chat once too. Cool.
Thanks, Aditya.
Yep. Over to you, Vikram.
Yep. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Now let's move on to the second part of the profile building exercise. The second aspect of any good profile are, especially for college students, are the case competitions. So what is a case competition? So this definition is like a circular definition, but I'll still go ahead with it. Case competition is a competition in which students come together to solve a case that is presented. Now, this could be any case. It could be a business plan, it could be a product tear down, it could be a marketing strategy. So this really depends on the company or the college which is giving that case competition. From my perspective, why do case competitions matter? And there's a long list of reasons for this. First is I feel they're a great way to hone your problem solving skills, creativity, and structured thinking, which are very important components of any product manager's job description. They force you to think and get outside of your comfort zone. And second is if you win a prestigious case competition at the national level, then in most cases you get a direct interview slot. For example, if you win the Microsoft PM case, then you're directly shortlisted for the face-to-face interview round. You don't have to go through the other shortlisting processes. And this is true for, I think, most case competitions run by most companies. Next is, again, it adds a lot of value to your CV if you win any competition. And lastly, it also helps you prepare for your written case round. So whether you're applying for an internship or an actual job, you always will have a written case study, because that is the essential part of most PM interview processes. So keeping all these aspects in mind, I think case competitions are a great way to boost your profile and to learn a lot as well. So if given the chance, you should definitely try participating in the good ones. Now, how do you get the opportunities for participation? So if you're a college student, then inter-college competitions and national level competitions organized by big companies are your best bet. And I think there are more competitions than you can take part in. So there is no dearth of opportunities if you're a college student. Second is, if you're a working professional, then what do you do, right? Because you can't really participate in the college level competitions. So here I would mention some of the product communities which are doing a lot of good work. So for example, Product Folks is there, PM School is there. So they organize a lot of product tear downs at a monthly level. And I'm sure there will be other communities as well, which I don't know about. So if you're a working professional, you should definitely try and participating in these monthly competitions and try to see how do you perform. And last is, there is this Dare to Compete website. That's also a great resource to see the competitions that are upcoming. You can check out the website, and you find anything suitable, you can just go and try that. So here I would like to make an important point that winning matters more than participation. Why do I say that? Because winning is what will make you stand out. So thousands of students would participate in a case competition. So just participating in it does not adding any value to your CV. What is adding value to your CV is the fact that if you win that or you reach the finals. So it's important that you give it your best shot and try to win that competition rather than just participate in it. Next is, how do you perform well? So the fact that it's important to try and win the competition means you have to be structured in your approach. You can't just go and say, okay, I'll do whatever comes my way. You have to be structured and thoughtful in your approach. So first tip here is look at the winners decks. So for example, if you look at the product tear downs conducted by the product school, they publish all the winner decks and their presentations as well in the form of YouTube videos. Try to look at them and analyze what is making them stand out. Second is, you could watch videos. There is a lot of good content freely available on YouTube to understand that what you should do. And last is talk to the competition winners. So here I'll mention that when you are especially in college, you tend not to think of the competition winners smart. A lot of times it's just simply jealousy. We feel that, oh, he's not so smart, he just won it by fluke. But in my personal experience, I've noticed that is not usually the case. The people who win case competitions follow a very structured and methodological approach. So it's always advisable, if you see someone who's winning case competitions, then you definitely go and talk to him and understand their thought process. So I remember during my ISB days, so there used to be this like guy who almost won every major case competition. He won Make My Trip, he won Microsoft PM, and he won other big competitions as well. So that clearly means that this individual had cracked the code for winning competitions. His thought process was very aligned with what the interviewers or with the evaluators wanted to see. So it's always good to talk to people who are winning these competitions and try to learn more from them. Some generic points here: focus on quality rather than quantity. You shouldn't end up in a situation where you have, say, 5 different case competitions you have registered for. You are teaming up with 5 different people for each of those case competitions, and then 4 hours before the submission, you are just grabbing some data from here and there and putting together a presentation. So if you follow that kind of approach, it won't really help you win that competition. So my advice would be not to take this kind of approach. So you should be focused on the case competitions you're participating in, and then give it your best shot. Before moving to the third element, let us do a quick check from the audience as to how many people here have, say, actually won or reached the finals of any kind of case competitions.
So while Vikram is conducting the poll, I wanted to add one more small point. So a lot of companies, especially for college students, right, one of their rounds is a take-home case study. And what happens is when people like this case competitions will also help you, like when you prepare decks, when you work with your friends and build this, right, it helps you to get understanding how to build up, how to structure an entire take-home case study, how to like structure it into a proper 10-page PPT. And like I can give you examples like companies like Razorpay, Cred, by Neo. All of these conducted take-home case study in the second round or first round. So having this experience of case competitions will really prepare you to build a very good deck and stand out against all the other people who are sitting in the interview as well. So that's why it's very important to like to take this with importance on how to build a proper deck and how to like it'll also improve your thought process as a PM as well.
Got it. So maybe we can check. Yeah. So we have similar percentage. Around 89% people have not won or reached the finals of a case competition, and we have around 11% who have actually won or reached the finals of a case competition. So I'll make my previous request and ask people if there are any volunteers who want to talk about a case competition which they won. Okay, so we have Alsatwar. Okay, he has withdrawn his hand. Anyone who wants to talk about a case competition they won and come on stage?
He has raised his hand again.
Okay, so we have Alsatwar.
Hello.
Hi, Alsat.
No, my name is Shravan. Alsatwar is my surname.
You're a bit low.
The voice is low, but he was saying his name is Shravan, not Alsat. Alsatwar is his last name, Vikram.
Oh, got it. Hi, Shravan.
Hi, Vikram. Thanks for the event. I've actually won the been runners up at the IIM Lucknow PMKS competition in the month of March. Like it has been good. Actually, it has gained me the confidence that PM case study is a lot much important and going ahead and try. Like in after that, I was looking for the PM internship, those things, and in almost I've applied 10 companies over there, but 5 of the companies asked me to uh, like create a deck where you suggest your features that has to be added. So in
Aditya, can you repeat the question once?
Which question?
hello.
What
Any wallet?
Shravan was asking? I
Oh,
didn't get him completely.
no, Shravan wasn't exactly asking a question. He was saying that after he won, like he had the IIM Lucknow case study which he won. After that, he's also applied for a lot of PM internships, and in 5 of them, they asked him for a case study, like take-home case study.
Got it.
Yeah, go on,
Right. So
Shravan.
that clearly shows how important that is, and I'm sure Shravan's previous victory would have helped him in the future written case studies as well.
Yes, yes. That is-
Thanks, Shravan.
Thank you, Shravan.
Right. So I'll take the rest of the questions. Okay. So Aditya, do you know of any case competitions that are specifically there for undergraduates? Because Microsoft
Yes.
PM, I think it caters only to MBA grads.
So for undergraduates, one of the things is I think both from my college as well, BITS conducts a PM teardown competition. Then IITs. So what happens is they collaborate with PM School. So PM School has first of all weekly challenges. So you guys can check out their LinkedIn page, and weekly they have a challenge or a case study, and then they pick out the top 3 case studies and they give them a social shout out. Basically, the founders of PM School will just tag you and say that this person is the winner. The best part is that since the founders have such a good network in product management, that when they tag you, right, you can be seen on LinkedIn with you can get a lot of social proof that you've been a good PM and you've actually built a great deck, and you can also stand out in front of other recruiters as well. The other one is the product folks. They also conduct pretty good case studies for college students, especially. So there as well, if you win, you can obviously you yourself can share your deck and share your talk about it. It's something where you can show the bragging rights for. Other than that, Dare to Compete has some cases, may not be always product management, but it could be related to market research or marketing strategy as well. And yeah, even I think Shreyas has mentioned it, right? UX Hack also conducts weekly case study competitions. It's mainly for UI UX designers, but even PMs, if you're more interested in a design PM role, it is a great place to stand out as well.
So we have one question from Aditya. I'll just show it on the stage. Aditya asks that how can aspiring PMs participate in hackathons? Aren't only developers suited for hackathons?
So
Aditya, you want to take a first pass at it?
Sure.
Then I'll add my thoughts. Yeah.
So that is kind of true. Yes, developers are more suited for hackathons, but there are a lot of. I can give you examples of this. There was a Walmart coding challenge or Walmart challenges or challenges from companies like Goodera, where you will have mainly developers executing the project, but the PM will own the what and the why. What project to build and why should we build this project? So this is actually a very great like collaborating with developers in a hackathon. And see, one thing is for a PM, one of the most important skills is collaborating with developers. Like whether you have technical knowledge or not, you should be able to talk to the developer, motivate him to code. So the hackathons is a great place at telling the developers, see, you have the coding skills. Let me do the market research. Let me find out what is that one valuable feature which is not there in the market right now that we can build that will help us to stand out. Maybe it can be doing something in a different way. If we're looking at Airmeet, and hackathon could be a PM could find a new feature to build, and the developer builds a very basic test case of that feature or a very basic system design for that feature. So that's a good example. So being a good PM.
Right. So I'll add my thoughts as well over here. So I've during my time at Microsoft, I was part of the hackathons. In DirectEye as well, I was part of hackathons. So generally, hackathons are not done by one person alone. They require a team of people, and it's not necessary that everyone has to code, because a hackathon project is not just about like coding. It's about deciding what all elements or what all things will you present in your MVP, because hackathon is like an MVP. You have to decide that. Then somebody has to present as well once the hackathon ends, and maybe you need to do the research, as Aditya said, so own the why of the problem. So there are a lot of different elements. You might have to write a document which helps the developer decide, okay, these are the things I have to do and these are the things I have to code. So it definitely doesn't mean that only a developer can participate in a hackathon. It's always a team effort, and I would definitely say that both you should partner with someone who's a developer and then build a better product. I'm absolutely sure if a developer and a PM partner for a hackathon, then the end output is going to be much better than just developers going ahead and participating in that. Right. So I will take the rest of the questions towards the end. I'll just complete the remaining part of the presentation, and that will leave us with about 5 to 7 minutes for the rest of the questions. I'll start with a personal opinion over here. Personally, I don't think simply having certifications or courses on your profile adds a lot of value. Having said that, I would say if at all you're considering to do a course or a program, then the best kind of courses are the ones which either give you a job or an internship guarantee, or where you are actually working on live projects. Because if you work on live projects, what will happen is you can the side projects you are doing, if you give it your best shot, at the end of it, either you'll have a functional prototype or you'll have a pitch deck, whatever the deliverable is. It can come into that project section of yours, and apart from that, on LinkedIn as well, you can showcase that project. So there is a tangible outcome. So if you're doing a course or certification, make sure that if there is no job guarantee associated with it, at least there is some kind of tangible outcome. You are preparing a solid pitch deck or a functional prototype. So this will really add value to the kind of project you're doing. And Aditya, do you want to talk about the kind of internship courses that we had discussed, which can really help
Sure,
people?
would love to. Yeah. So, like Vikram said, one thing important is for which I feel a lot of college students have a misconception on is that, see, PM is like swimming. You cannot learn swimming until you swim in an ocean. You cannot watch YouTube videos or do courses and learn swimming. You have to throw yourself in a swimming pool to learn, right? And that's the importance of doing while learning by doing, right? The best people build a project, build a product deck, do a product teardown, or simply even not if you can't do all of that, even a basic document or a Medium article on how you would break down your product is the best way to learn PM. But there are some good courses. So there are some courses, like for example, the Product Folks has a free course for product managers. It's called the Insurjo program, where they give you like top product managers from different companies like Razorpay, Byju's, Vedantu, Cred. They give good lectures on how to build a product, basics of metrics, prioritization, and everything. The second very good, there's a good company called Appraised. So Appraised has an internship program where if you do well, so they have an entrance exam, kind of an entrance exam for PMs, and if you do well and you show the aptitude and skill, they kind of they train you for a guaranteed internship. And the best part of this is that the training is free, and you pay money, or you pay a small amount money after they guarantee you an internship. So you will get an internship, and a lot of good companies, I think, companies like Razorpay again, and other mid-level to top-level startups do hire from Appraised. So another company is Rapido, which comes in mind, or even Ola has hired from Appraised. So these are places where you can check out, there where you can actually try to can help you, or like be like I think a foothold into a PM role by taking these kind of courses. But again, one disclaimer here is, do not spend too much money on courses. It's not going to be that important in your resume as well. So do courses which either guarantee that end goal, either maybe a physical product or a product deck, or finally they actually help you through the network to get an internship or a job. Yep.
Right. Thanks, Aditya. Right. Another thing is, if you're in college, you get a lot of electives that you can take. These could be on human-computer interaction, strategic management, or design. So I would say that they don't really help you get an interview call. But if given a choice, you should definitely focus on electives which are PM-centric. These could be around strategy or psychology or design. So they might not help you get a job directly, but in the long run, I feel they are very beneficial, as it will help you learn the skills which really come in handy once you're on the job. So that is my 2 cents on elective strategy. So those were the 3 elements that we had to cover for the part of this presentation. First was the side projects that you need to do. Second is case competition and the strategy you need to follow. And the third is the what was the third one? Yeah, third is the courses and certifications. So these are the 3 elements, I think, which are in your control, and you can focus on improving them. Before we end this presentation, we have some important points. First is content consumption is not equivalent to profile building. So, given the ease with which you can create content, both written and video content, we all of us are in that consumption zone where we are talking and reading about building great products or getting into product management rather than actually focusing on doing the hard work which will help us achieve that goal. So one disclaimer is you will have a lot of access to content, a lot of people will be selling their content to you, but don't focus on consuming content, focus on creating stuff that actually raises your skills. That is the first advice. Second is everybody's time and situation is different. So the profile elements you want to focus on will depend on your situation. For example, if you're a working professional, then it might not be that easy to participate in case competitions. If you are a postgraduate student, then it becomes very easy to participate in case competitions. So keep these things in mind when you are thinking about what you can do to build your profile in the most optimum manner. Third is, I'm reiterating this again, quality matters more than quantity. And yeah, lastly is don't become a certificate collector. So you shouldn't have participation certificates for a lot of case competitions or a lot of courses you have done on product management. That should not be your goal. Your goal should be to have some tangible outcomes or outputs which really improve your skill as a product manager and show the recruiter as well that yes, you have got it in you to build great products. So yeah, having said that, a good profile is not enough. There are a lot of elements involving your chances of getting an internship or a job, which is you need to market yourself well, you need to hustle a lot, and you need to work on your interviewing skills a lot. Because I've noticed in the past, so I have some fantastic engineering friends who had great projects. They had a great profile on paper, but just because they couldn't perform well in the interviews, they didn't show customer empathy, they missed out on a lot of good companies. So while building a good profile is important, you also need to learn how to market yourself, how to hustle or how to get things done, and lastly work on your interviewing skills a lot, because that will really decide whether you finally get an offer or not. Right. So Aditya, do you want to add anything else before we conclude this session?
Is for college students
Hello.
especially is, see, they know that you're young, you're a college student, you might not have all the PM skills. What they look at is, why do you want to be a PM? Are you just following the hype around it because you're going to LinkedIn, you see a lot of people talking about PM? Or have you done that deep dive? Have you tried to understand what the PM exactly does? What is the role about? What are the advantages of the role? What are the disadvantages of the role as well, right? Making sure that you solve for the why. The behavioral questions matter a lot. A lot of times I've seen people take a bit light or being a bit laid back on behavioral questions like who you are, why do you want to be a good PM, why product management, or right out of college, right? If you can answer these questions really well, better than any profile or any case study solving, if you can answer these questions well and show that, hey, I've done the hard work, I've actually done the research for the role, it will truly inspire not inspire, I would say, yeah, truly influence the interviewers to take a bet on you for the role.
Right. Thanks, Aditya, for those insights. So that was it from our side for these sessions. We'll now open the floor for questions. Before ending the session, a special mention for Aditya. Aditya is like one of the brightest college students I've worked with, and it was really a pleasure preparing the content of these slides with him. So I want to thank him for that. And thank you all for joining this session. We have around 108 folks. I hope in this first session, we were able to cover everything as per your expectations. And in case you feel something was missing, something additional should have been covered, just send in a message and we'll definitely send you material on those aspects as well. So we have 5 minutes with us. Thank God we are on time. We are not overshot the time. So I'll just show the question on stage, and then maybe we can take them one by one. So we have a question from Prakhar.
Vikram, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I think Aditya's screen has frozen.
Can you hear me, Vikram?
Yes.
Okay. So Supposedly, I won a case competition, say weekly product case challenge organized by PM School. Shall I add that in my resume? If yes, best way to place it on my resume to make my profile stand out. So I would suggest couple your resume with a deck. So normally what I do is suppose like when you're applying for a role, right? And especially if you're asking for a referral or you're sending a message to the hiring manager, what I do is in my cold mail itself or in my like in a basic cover letter, I tell, hey, had some experience in building product decks. And then along with my resume, I'll be like enclosed along with my resume is a sample product deck to display my product management skills. Please go through it, and if you like it, do set up an interview or do give me a chance to interview for the role. So usually the problem with keeping it within your resume is that sometimes they spend less than 30 seconds on your resume, right? They can miss it out because there'll be a small link. Number two is if you're placing it, where do you place it? Like suppose you place it towards the last, right? They might have already formed an impression on you based on your beginning of your resume, right? So even after that, so the first impression matters. So ideally, I usually couple it as a link is that I want to make sure they look at my product deck first and then look at my resume. They'll be like, okay, wow, this product deck is good. Then if you see my resume, right, then you already starting with a good impression because you've already shown your product management skills, and then trying to back it up with your resume is the best way to stand out.
Got it. Thanks, Aditya. So we have a lot more other questions as well, which I think will be covered in the succeeding sessions. So I'll probably just flash them, but we'll not take them over here. First is, I think Shruti has mentioned about showcasing what you have built. So how do you showcase them on the CV? This will be covered in tomorrow's session. And I think what you are asking is how do you showcase them publicly? Usually people showcase their pitch decks and all. So Aditya, is there a better way to do that?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best way. So normally what you can do is showcase your pitch deck and your process also, like how you went about, like a small one paragraph on how you went about building that, building your whatever you have built, right? Like suppose your daily UI challenge, maybe your process, like how did you start with? Did you start with empathy, doing a user research? So like you're trying to break down the structure at which you work as a designer or as a product manager. So what happens is once you made this, like suppose you post it on LinkedIn one or two times, right? When you also post your structure, right, it builds engagement because other people will be inspired. Okay, this is how she went about building a deck. So they will like it or they'll comment on it. And it will also improve your engagement and reach of the product. But yeah, other than LinkedIn and Twitter, I think LinkedIn is the best way to showcase it. Other way is that you can create a portfolio, which is like basically like in that portfolio of your website portfolio, you can show all the different case studies you have shown. And it can be like a curated list of your case studies, and you can send that portfolio link to any hiring manager or a recruiter.
Got it. So we have questions around what kind of interview questions are asked from MPA grads. I think we can cover it next week. Then how do you get through the ATS to reach a hiring manager? Again, we'll cover this next week. There are questions around technical aspects. How technical should a product manager be? So I think we'll cover this in the next session that we have. I think we'll squeeze in one last question before we take a break, and then we'll be back. So let me just pick one question. Okay. So how much is the correlation between actual PM job and solving case studies? Yeah. So I would say there is a correlation, regardless of what people on LinkedIn might be saying that you are just running after developers and you are writing user stories and you are not doing anything strategic when you're working as a PM. I don't think that's true. Obviously, there is a certain time for everything. So when you're starting out as an APM, directly your manager is not going to ask you to make a strategy to boost your business by 30%. So that is not going to happen. As a PM, generally you will start with focusing on execution, which is you'll know what is the feature you need to build. You will focus on working with the designers, getting it built, and then getting it delivered by working with the engineers. So in the initial few months or probably the first year, you'll be focusing on this sort of stuff. And then gradually you become more strategic. So you will do market research. You will understand how other competitors are working. And based on that, you will be giving your recommendations and inputs as well. So that is how it generally happens. But another important point to note here is that it varies. So if you're working in a very large organization, then maybe for a longer period of time, you'll just be focusing on executing. But if you're in a startup, very soon you might enter into working on strategy related things as well. So those are my 2 cents. Aditya, you want to add anything to that?
I think you have covered it all. Yeah, it is. So there is a small correlation. One thing is, even in case studies, right? Most of the case study competitions are group competitions. So you will have to work within a group, discuss, brainstorm. Then you learn how to put down others' ideas as well, like in a kind and nice way, as well as pitch for your idea to get into the product deck. So that this is actually a very fun thing which you can do, like especially when in college, like sit late night with your friends and then enjoy and do this. It's not something which I don't think you should take much stress in case studies. Yes, winning will be important, but being more process driven than outcome driven. Like if you are more process driven on your ideation process, your articulation, doing the right stuff, winning will come as outcome. But if you're focusing on, "No, I want to win," you'll get that stress on building case studies. Think about case studies as a very fun way to think out your own thought process, right? And it's a great opportunity to combine both creativity as well as creativity as well as analytical thinking. And you can put yourself in the shoes of product managers. For example, if you're doing a case study on Zomato, you can tomorrow think of yourself as a Zomato PM or Zomato CEO and how you would improve Zomato, right? And it's a very fun way of thinking. It will also, like, that kind of thought process will help you improve your skills as a PM as well. Like you will be able to go to Zomato app, track what is missing in Zomato currently and how do you improve it. Yep.
Got it. Thanks, Aditya. So we will break for now, and I hope we were able to give you a lot of useful content for this session. We will take a break for about 13 to 14 minutes, and we'll be back at 11:45 with our second session. Till then, either you can take a water break, or if you want to hang around, you can take a seat at the social lounge on the tables and interact with some of your partners, get to know more about them, share your learnings from this session. So we'll be back in 15 minutes. Thank you, and
One
hope you
small
have
thing
a
I
wonderful
wanted to
time.
add
Yeah.
is that, see, there were a lot of questions on cold mailing, product decks, how to do market research. We'll actually have a session on this as well. Like we will be covering exactly with examples on how to cold mail, how to build the right product deck, again with examples of different product decks
Right.
I have built and my fellow friends have built. So don't worry about it. We didn't answer the question in this session, but we will be covering it. I know the importance of it as well. So yeah, so stick around for that as well.
Right. Thanks, everyone. Bye. See you at 11:45.
Bye, guys.